Now that we have Native Base installed, we're going to start getting ready to set up our landing page. And the first thing we need to do is get rid of all the stuff inside the view. Just clear it out. And we're going to put in that image that I was talking about, that landing image, inside the view here. So in order to do that, right after platform, you're going to need to require the image component from React Native. It is a React Native primitive, and we can go ahead and pass that in right here. Now, image typically requires two props, a source and a style, but for right now we'll just put in the source and say that it's going to be a variable called myBackground, which we'll just define right above here. And we'll say var myBackground is equal to, and we need to require this, and we just have to set the location from this file to where the app is located inside of our folder. So we know that the app, or sorry, the picture is located inside the icons, inside the assets of our project. So all we have to do is specify the route to that. So we'll say ./assets/icons/landing.jpg. And you'll notice as soon as I refresh this, we have that nice Pokemon picture background set up on our landing page. So that already looks really nice. I mean, I did a pretty good job in Photoshop. Congratulate me, thank you. No, it's a nice little Pokemon landing right here. And we're going to put some stuff right inside here. We're basically going to put like a hello message and then just a button that'll take them to the next screen where they can start searching for things. So image is a self-closing tag. However, it can be a tag that you open up and then you can pass children inside of it. So if you want something, like if we wanted like an image up top and then something below that's different from the image, then we could just, you know, have it outside and image could be a self-closing tag. But if we want to put stuff inside the image using image as like a background, then we can go ahead and like open it up as an opening and closing tag and then pass some children or components inside of it. And what we're going to want to pass in there is a couple things. The first will be a view tag. I'm looking at my notes here, so apologize if I'm a little bit slow, but I'm trying to keep this somewhat similar to what I developed earlier because I think the PokeSearch app that I made was pretty sound. So style, and then we're going to have a styles.viewStyle on that, just like this. And then we need to close off that view tag just like that. And inside this view tag, we're going to place a text, just like this. And on this text, we'll say something like, you know, welcome to PokeSearch. Now, before we go any further, let's go ahead and make that view style right here. So I can just say view style. And we're going to want a couple things. The first is flex 1 because we want to take up as much space as possible here. We don't want this to be stuffed at the top. We want a flex direction, which we haven't talked about yet, but basically it just means, do we want the flex power? So do we want it like, you know, the component or whatever we have inside the view taking up as much stuff vertically or horizontally? And if you want it vertically, all you got to say is we want the flex direction to be set at column. And then we want to justify the content because we want this to sit in the center. So we can go ahead and say center. And then also we want to align items, which you're also familiar with, center that right in the center there. Let's just go ahead and save this and see how it's looking so far. So, okay, good. We have welcome to PokeSearch kind of sitting in the middle, which is, you know, what we want. We would like this maybe a little bit bigger, the welcome to PokeSearch, so we can open up this text tag here and add in a style. I probably didn't need to open that up, but I do like opening up these tags because it's a little bit nicer to put the props in sometimes. And we'll just say styles dot, we can call this title style. And on this object, we're going to add in title style. And for this, we're going to want a font size that's a little bit bigger, font size of 30. So it'll be a nice big text. We want color blue, just because, you know, we're excuse me, doing Pokemon, and, you know, usually Pokemon has that kind of blue-yellow look, but we'll just have a blue color. And then we'll also make sure that we have this centered up. Sometimes it's good to throw on a little align item center, just to make sure things are working the way you want them to. Okay, so welcome to PokeSearch. Looking a little bit nicer. Now we do need that button to take us somewhere else. So let's go ahead and add that in. We already have button included from Native Base, so we're ready to just add that in right below this text here. And we'll say button. And in this case, button's going to have a lot of props, so I'll open this up already and then close it off down here. And inside button, we're going to have a few things. The first thing we're going to want is a property called block, and we can just go ahead and set that to true. Now button, because this is not a component that we developed, this is a component that's developed by the people at Native Base, they have a prop called block, which you can set equal to true, which basically just means you want a nice long button. And then we want to add our own styling to it, which we'll call styles.buttonStyle. And I'll add that in a minute at the bottom. The last prop we're going to want on this is just an on press, which we're just going to leave it blank for now, but we do want a function sitting in there because eventually we're going to want that button to do something. So we'll just leave that open like that. Okay, and inside the button we're going to want to include a text. Now I will say something about this. So text is going to be obviously the message that's inside the button. So whatever you want the button to say, you want to put inside of text inside that button. Now Native Base has its own text component. However, I've experienced, I've done a lot of programming with Native Base already, and I've noticed that the text component that comes with Native Base tends to break your Android app in certain conditions, and it's really inflexible. So I like using just the regular text from React Native with the button from Native Base, and really there's no side effects from doing that. So make sure if you're ever using Native Base in the future and they tell you to import text from their library, you might want to think twice, just because Android might give you some issues depending on what you're doing. Now inside this text, we'll write something like, start searching. And we're going to want to add in a style for this text as well. And we'll go ahead and say this is styles.buttonStyle, or we'll call this button text just like this, because we already have a button style right here, button text, because it's the text inside the button. And then down here we can go ahead and write out some of these styles. So real quick, because this video is getting long, we're going to just say button style. And the only thing we want on this is just a margin 10, which is going to give us a little bit of room on the sides when this button appears. And then the last thing we want for the text is just to color it up a little bit. So button text, give it a color of white. So that way, when we refresh this after we save it, we're going to see this button has a nice little margin of 10 on the sides. You can even expand that out a little bit more if you want. But then also, the text in the center is white instead of black. That just, especially in that like kind of navy blue there, it gives it a little bit more of a pop, so you can see it says start searching. And you can even make that font size a little bit bigger if you want, but I think for our purposes, this is just fine. And if I click this, eventually this is going to take us to the search page, but we'll start doing that in the next video.